Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
So this should be a lot of fun. At least we think it's going to be a lot of fun. We get closer and closer to training camp. Yes, it's right around the corner. And we thought we'd do something just a little bit different for a couple of shows here as we kind of pull back and take a broader view of the 2019 Arizona Cardinals. And a lot has changed here over the last several weeks and months since the end of last season. And we're going to go through a lot of those changes. Again, part one, offense, part two, defense. And I can't think of a better person outside of you, MJ, to do this with. But Ron Wolfley, color analyst of the Arizona Cardinals, former player and someone who has a lot of passion and energy for this sport.
Yeah, hopefully Wolf realizes they're not going to have a fullback on the roster this year. But, yeah, I mean, he obviously a guy that played the game at a high level. Does a great job on the radio. He's got that football jargon, and he's very passionate about scheme and systems. And I think we're all curious of what this offense is going to look like. I think we kind of trying to connect the dots, but I don't think we're really going to know. So, you start looking at what they're going to do. Obviously, Kyler Murray and Kliff Kingsbury are tied at the hip, so it's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold.
And look, because of what happened last season, the numbers are not good. Last or dead last or near the bottom, and basically every major statistical category on this offense. So, look, improvement needed to be made, and it begins with your quarterback.
Yeah, and the fact is that, normally, and we've talked about this, it seems like, back when the OTAs were going on, that when you look at it from that standpoint, Kyler Murray knows the system. He knows the terminology, and we've talked about it, and I don't think it should be downplayed, is that a lot of times you get drafted, you go to a team, maybe they're changing coaches, which is similar here, but you're also going to a team possibly that has a different terminology. Murray's played in this pretty much since he played in high school. So go back to high school, he's been running in the system. So just makes sense, but obviously it's going to take some time.
Yeah, he's almost a coach on the field, coaching up some of his teammates as well as what they want to do here offensively here in 2019. All right, without further ado, part one of a two-part series, if you will, as we talk about the 2019 Arizona Cardinals. Earlier, we caught up with Ron Wolfley to talk offense. Well, there really is nowhere to go but up when you think about this Cardinals offense from a year ago. So big changes in place for 2019 as we speak with Ron Wolfley, color analyst of your Arizona Cardinals. And there is probably no other season that the Cardinals have had, especially here in Arizona, in which there is so much unknown about an offensive scheme, and I don't know if that's good or bad right now.
I don't know if it's good or bad either, guys. I can tell you that, but it's going to be different, and it's going to be really interesting to watch how they're going to do this. What do you do when you're trying to hide an offense? How much do you show? How much do you rep, especially in preseason? What can you possibly do and not do and still get away with repping your offense? To me, it's a mind number. It really is. How much of this offense are they going to show when they're trying to hide it?
It's funny because we all ask the players, what can we expect? And they've all dialed back and kind of chosen their words very carefully because it seems like they've been told as well, don't let too much out. But to your point, Wolf, about training camp and in the preseason, because this offense and the playmakers that they expect to use a lot are so young, my opinion, these guys need to play. And I'm sorry, and that means first quarter, second quarter, maybe even into third quarter.
Right.
You have to rep what you're going to do in the regular season.
You have to do that, right? I've been thinking about this a lot, guys, at home, right? I'm just staggering around the compound, mumbling to myself, how are they going to do this? How are they going to implement this? I mean, the install is in, right? You install on the grease board at first, and then you go out with OTAs, and you install all over again, and then you reinstall when minicamp comes, and then training camp. The same thing is going to happen, right? But how do you implement it on the field? How do you do that? You know what I would do if I were Kliff Kingsbury and I were the Arizona Cardinals? I'd come out in preseason and I'd give people exactly what they want, exactly what they expect. I'd go 5 wide. I'd go 4 wide. Some of the tenets, some of the pillars of the air raid offense, I'd go ahead and show them that immediately. And then I'd run a lot more 11 personnel and come with a pro raid like the Kansas City Chiefs do on week 1 against the Detroit Lions. That's what I would do. I would give people, oh, yeah, we're going to go up tempo. We're going to go 4 wide. We're going to go 5 wide. You ain't never seen anything like what we're going to do. And then all of a sudden, just boom, boom, boom. Oh, yeah, it's the air raid. It's the air raid. It's the air raid. That's what they're going to run right there, the air raid, right? And then I would dial it back, and I'd run more of the pro raid like the Kansas City Chiefs have done, where you use more 11 personnel, where even from time to time, you'll use a power personnel group, 12 personnel, which is 1 back, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. The Kansas City Chiefs jump into 21 personnel, 2 backs, and run the power, which was it was the second play they ever drew up in the game of football. So to me, I would give people exactly what they think it's going to be, and then all of a sudden I would change it if in fact it is going to be different.
And I think it's going to be the opposite. I
think it's going to be the opposite of that?
You know why? Because they got a quarterback. And usually when you're a young quarterback and you're drafted first overall, you're going to the NFL and you probably haven't taken a lot of snaps underneath center, and you're probably going to have to learn new terminology and vocabulary. This syncs up with Kliff Kingsbury's offense to a T. He's been recruiting this kid since he was 15 years old. Yeah, other guys are going to have to adapt. I don't think we're going to see anything. And if you guys want to get into how many possessions we see from Kyler Murray, the first game, what did we see, 1 or 2? Second game, maybe 1, 2, or 3. The third preseason game is in Minnesota. Does he play a quarter? We're not going to see him in the 4th game. So I know, and they may close some practices in training camp because they're going to have to run that offense, but I'm not showing anything in the preseason. I want Matt Patricia to look at Texas Tech film, Texas A&M film, Oklahoma film. I know this is the NFL, and you're not going to surprise a lot of things. It's still 11-on-11 football, but I am not showing anything in the preseason.
So what you're saying is you believe that they are going to run an air raid type offense, right? I mean, if you're not going to show that, right, if you're not going to do it, that's what you think they're basically going to run. I don't believe we're going to see the full-on air raid. That's just me. At the NFL level, I don't believe we're going to see the full-on air raid.
And I don't disagree.
That's why I'd come out and I'd run it and show it immediately in the preseason, because the tenets, the concepts of your offense are found in the air raid. So go out and practice those. Rep those out. But then guess what? We're not actually going to do the full-on air raid. We're going to do more of a combination of the pro game and the air raid. Does that make sense?
Yes, they do. They don't like using the word air raid around here.
They don't like using it? Why do you think that is?
Just because that's Hal Mummy. That's Mike Leach. Those guys threw the ball 60 to 70 times.
Okay.
They are not going to do that. It's more the pro raid with mesh concepts to the RPO, the pistol, and possibly the zone read.
Okay, this is going to be so good right here. The power of the mesh. I'm so glad you brought that up, Michael.
What's your favorite word, mesh point?
Well, just stop and think about it right now. Okay, Kyler Murray and David Johnson. Hey, everybody, who's got the ball? What do you think that's going to do, that mesh? Especially when David takes his time on that mesh point, right? With Kyler Murray and David Johnson on the mesh, what do you think it's going to do to that box? The 6-7 guys that are in the box, it's going to freeze their butt for the most part, right? And that's exactly what you want to do. Philosophically, with this offense, the Arizona Cardinals, with Kyler Murray as their quarterback, they've got the defense's teat in a ringer, so to speak, as Gene Stallings used to say, right? They got it in the ringer from the very get-go. Why? Because, okay, you want to play zone? Oh, great. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to lead the league in RPOs. They're going to lead the league in RPOs. You know what is tailor-made for an RPO? You play zone cover. You go ahead and play that. Play a zone defense right there, because now all of a sudden we got the mesh and we got Kyler Murray's looking at one guy. Look, boom, there's a slant right behind the guy who sucks up on David Johnson with the mesh point, right? Throw it right over his head to Larry Fitzgerald on a slant route, by way of example right there. Zone cover plays right into the quarterback's hands with an RPO. Oh, okay, so we're not going to play zone then. We're going to play man because that's how you stop the RPO. It's a much better defense. Man cover. That's how you stop the RPO. Oh, that's great because we'll go 4 verticals, send everyone down the field, and then Kyler Murray is going to take the ball down. You got one guy that is going to try to catch him or put a spy on him. I'll take Kyler Murray in the open field every time because now he's going to pull it down and run. How many times have we seen Russell Wilson do this against the Arizona Cardinals? Not just league-wide, against the Cardinals specifically. How many times he's pulled it down on 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, and converted that third down.
And he doesn't have 4.3 speed.
And he doesn't have 4.3 speed. He doesn't have the lateral quicks of Kyler Murray.
And he's got that baseball background, that pop-up slide at second. He's going to be able to slide. He's going to learn to get out of bounds. This is not RG3 in the zone read. This is a completely different player here. They're going to protect him. Obviously, if you're going to run a spread offense, Wolf, you have to protect the edges.
Yeah, you have to do that. There's no doubt about that. But again, when you're talking about rundown situation, 1st and 10, 2nd and 1 to 6, you have to understand rundown really defines who you are. It defines who you are as an offense. Everyone throws the ball on 3rd and 8. Everyone throws the ball. It's called sub-package, right? Everyone does that. You have specific players that play only in sub-package. You have specific protections and plays that you use only in sub-package, right? 1st and 10, 2nd and 1 to 6. Classic rundown situations. What you do in those situations really determine what kind of offense you are. What is the personnel group that you guys use, right? What is the formations that you guys like to use during rundown situation? What are the plays you guys use during those? That is your offensive DNA, so to speak. It determines what you are as an offense. And that's what I can't wait to see. Personnel groups, formations, and plays based on down and distance.
Regardless of what this team wants to do, you have to have 5 guys up front to protect, open up rushing lanes. I've read too much and heard too much about outside. Cardinals haven't done enough to address the offensive line, which I think is wrong.
I totally
Because you've
agree.
drafted,
Totally
you've
agree.
acquired, and you signed.
Totally agree.
What do you think about what General Manager Steve Keim has done with this offensive line and the depth with a Max Garcia, Corey Cunningham, where you think you've got maybe 8, 9 guys? And I know it's if healthy, but the guys, if healthy, what you think those 5 can do?
Listen, don't get me started. The personnel, first of all, is vastly improved. Okay, that's number one. The scheme is going to help the offensive line as well. And then the raw skill, the unmitigated skill of Kyler Murray. That's going to help the offensive line for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's talk about the personnel right now. Marcus Gilbert at right tackle from 3 different sources, guys that I trust impeccably, including my older brother Craig, who is the analyst, of course, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, says that Marcus Gilbert is a Pro Bowl right tackle. He's a Pro Bowl right tackle. He's got to stay healthy. He's willing to acknowledge that, right? Marcus Gilbert, to me, is an upgrade at right tackle. There's no denying that. J.R. Sweezy is an upgrade at right guard because now you're going to take Justin Pugh, you're going to kick him over to left guard where he belongs. That's where I think he's more comfortable right there. A left guard is more finesse than he is a brawler. Sweezy is a brawler, and that's what I love about it. Put him on the right side, and then you've got DJ Humphries coming back, a highly motivated DJ Humphries at left tackle. And then the center position, Mason Cole or A.Q. Shipley. To me, it's going to be hard to unseat A.Q. Shipley. The guy is a veteran. He's been around. He's seen it all, right? But I think that's going to be a training camp battle. They're going to open that up right there. I think the offensive line from a personnel perspective is vastly improved. From a scheme perspective, when you talk about RPOs and the mesh, oh, look, it's Kyler Murray and David Johnson over here. Once again, what does that do to a box? It freezes the box for a split second. And that's all an offensive lineman needs from time to time to get into position. A lot of times, they're run blocking. They're run blocking like they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if it's going to be the run or the pass in a lot of these situations. So they run block. The action, the play action off an RPO is so good. It is so strong. It's the strongest play action I think I've ever seen, and that's saying a lot. But it makes sense because the offensive line, much of the time, thinks you are running the ball. That's what they're doing because knowing that the ball's going to come out quickly if you throw it. They really don't have to try to pass protect. But it freezes. The mesh in the RPO freezes the front six, the front seven. So scheme is going to help these guys do their job as well. And then, number 3, just the fact you've got a guy, Kyler Murray, the mighty Kyler Murray, who can pull the ball down and run at any point. That is going to help these guys do their job better. Think about it. If you're a defensive coordinator, every time we play Russell Wilson, do you blitz Russell? Do you go after Russell Wilson like a madman? No, you don't. You know what? Okay, we're going to rush 5. Everyone stay in your lane. Collapse the pocket around them. Collapse the pocket, stay in your lane. Don't come up the field with this massive edge rush because he's going to see it, he's going to pull it down, he's going to run. That's the last thing we want him doing is being out of the pocket, running, because that's where Russell Wilson makes so many plays. Kyler Murray, I think, is going to be very similar to that. Defensive coordinators are going to say, keep him in the pocket. He's 5'10". Are you kidding me right now? Keep him in the pocket. Don't get out of your rush lane. Collapse the pocket around him. That helps your offensive line do their job better because they can almost guarantee here comes the bull. Makes sense, right? It's those 3 things. Personnel is upgraded, scheme, and skill is going to help that offensive line.
Now, we watched Todd Bowles do this when he got here, and that's the reason why they had Dayon Buchanan. They would consider having that hybrid linebacker, and some teams would use a spy on a guy like Russell Wilson and Mike Vick. Now, that means you're also taking a guy out of coverage. Do you think we're going to see teams put a spy on Murray depending on what the Cardinals' offense looks like?
That's the great. You've got to put a spy on him. Oh, my goodness. And he's got to be a guy that can run. Think about it. We're trying to put a spy on a guy that's running a sub 4.4. That means 4.3 something. That is a scary, especially, too. You guys have seen this. I know Kyler Murray's his lateral. That was good. That's doing a morning show for 4 hours right there. His lateral speed is unbelievable getting outside of the pocket. That, to me, makes him so deadly and so dangerous. What teams are going to do? They're going to try. They're going to try to run a lot of zone cover. That's what I think. Eyes on Kyler Murray. Eyes on Kyler Murray. We'll rush 4, we'll rush 5 and sub package on 3rd down, but eyes on Kyler Murray for the most part. So when he pulls it down, we got to run up and make the tackle. And that's where it gets really dicey for you as a defensive coordinator because, again, that actually helps and clarifies the RPO.
Let's end this offensive discussion on the playmakers. We know what they're going to get out of Larry Fitzgerald, and I think to a certain extent Christian Kirk as well. David Johnson has been kind of MIA, if you will. Some of it his own doing. Well, I mean, he got hurt, and then some of it not his own fault. I mean, the offense just wasn't right last year. But David Johnson and then 3 rookie wide receivers. How do you think Kyler Murray, with where he's looking on the field or handing the ball off, how this offense might look?
It was so interesting because Kliff Kingsbury was talking about the illusion of complexity. Did you happen to hear that? It was
yes.
The illusion of complexity. Oh, my goodness. As soon as he said that, I thought of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what I thought of. Well, they'll go ahead and they've got Tyreek Hill and they run him all over. You talk about, hey, everybody, look over here, look over here. That's how they use a guy like Tyreek Hill, right? And then they run a very base play. They run the jet sweep motion. Oh, look, he's going to get the ball. No, he's not. And here comes the inside zone right at you. It's how they package it. That's the illusion of complexity to me, right? I think when you've got the kind of speed that the Arizona Cardinals have with Kyler Murray, starting with Kyler Murray running a 4.3, and then you got David Johnson running a 4.4, and you got Christian Kirk running a 4.41, and then you've got Andy Isabella that you're going to bring in running a 4.31. It goes on and on and on. The speed that they can actually run onto the field right now, this is going to be a nightmare for a defensive coordinator. Now, my only question is this. can they execute? Can they all come together and execute and do it correctly? I don't know. I have no idea what to expect from this offense. I have no idea if they're going to be able to do it. All I can say right now is it looks really good on paper.
Yes, and I think a lot of us believe that, but they don't play the game.
They don't play the game
paper.
on paper, and therein lies the rub.
Well, and we also got to keep in mind we've got a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback. There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be a learning curve.
There's no doubt about that, right? Especially on third down, I think, with Kyler Murray, because that's where the complex blitz packages and pressure packages are going to come after him.
Wolf, love the information, love the passion, and appreciate it, and hope to catch up with you again down the road.
Right on, man.
Just really can't thank Wolf enough for his insight, first of all, into what, again, as you talked about it earlier on the show, Jen, what we're trying to guess what this offense is going to look like as we come to you here from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center and broadcasting in our Bose QC35s, as we always do here on Cards Cover 2. Go to Bose.com for more information. A reminder, we've got part 2 talking defense a little bit later on this week, but I want to talk something that we didn't quite get into specifics because a lot of it is hard, and again, it's that guesstimating or projecting, but when you look at the weapons that Kyler Murray has, specifically the new weapons, I guess all the weapons are new to him, but the 3 wide receivers that they drafted, Andy Isabella, Hakeem Butler, and Keyshawn Johnson, all 3 are going to be a part of this offense in some degree or another. Question is how quickly are they going to pick it up to where Kingsbury and Murray can rely on them on Sundays?
Yeah, the fact that, we were talking about this during the draft. Maybe you said take 2 and they decided to go 3, and I think they're all different from each other. Andy Isabella is a guy that can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. He's got really good speed, but he played at a smaller school. Now, granted, he did play well against some of these big conferences, but it's a little bit different at the NFL. So I think it's still a learning curve for him. Looks like sometimes he's fighting for the ball, but, it's a work in progress. And when we put the pads on, we'll see how he's going to do. Obviously, he's going to get a chance to play in the preseason. He'll be on the roster. It's just a work in progress.
I think with his size and speed, many people would pick him as a slot guy, but he did play some outside in college. Now, whether that can be the case here at the NFL level, who knows? But I think initially where he'll have his best advantage is inside, get the ball 2-3 yards off the line, and then use that speed that we all know, and then kind of make defenders miss and try to make a short gain into a big gain.
Yeah, and that's what, if they decide to go 3 or 4 wide, that's where you have the guys in the slot that run that shallow crossing route. So he gets open, and based on the film, and you go back to the film and say this is what he did against good competition. Yards after catch, he's elusive in the open field, and I think that maybe doesn't get a credit for the speed. But again, working with Jerry Sullivan, David Rye, he'll improve in that area. It's just going to take some time. It's got to be more fluid when you're catching the football because you don't want that ball to get knocked out. You have to catch it and then bring it into your chest. Again, he's done a ton of work on the jugs machine. It's just a matter of time of him getting more comfortable catching the football.
And then let's go in order of their draft, and that is Hakeem Butler. That is the big target and an outside receiver because of his size and jumping ability to get those 50-50 balls. And I think someone that the Cardinals would really, really hope becomes a factor earlier than later just because he is a different guy that they have across this wide receiver room.
Yeah, and they've kind of tried to flood the X wide receiver position. Obviously Fitz, we'll see if they move him around. Kevin White, we'll get into him. But Hakeem Butler is more about the future, but you'd like to see him contribute this year. Again, a guy that could be probably in the top 5 or 6 when you start looking at the receivers. Obviously has great size, great catch radius, 50-50 balls. But he did have some drops in college, and we've ran
the easy ones,
and then we've ran some video of him, and he makes these miraculous catches, and you're like, okay, you dropped the easy ones, so that can go back to concentration and focus. You have to be focused, but what I'm hearing here is it's just like a lot of these young receivers, you got to get off press coverage. I don't care how fast or how tall you are, you have to get separation, and that's something he's learning. And again, that could be taught. It just takes time. So, again, all these guys are going to get all their opportunities in the preseason, and then we'll see what they decide to do when it comes to at least the young receivers and then the guys that they like on the roster.
You can also get separation from a defender by just how well you run your routes, and that is the key for Keyshawn Johnson, no pun intended, but that is the thing that was singled out about him by general manager Steve Keim after he was drafted, a natural route runner that they could see on film. And it seems like, from what we've been told and hearing from fellow players, that has translated onto this football field.
Yeah, I would say of the three, he's probably the most polished, and it's based on the route running and his catching ability. And Jerry Sullivan has been working with him, and there's things he can find to get off press coverage, maybe become more of a guy that can kind of sell a route or a double move. But for the most part, he's really exceeded with his patch catching ability and then his route running. And so I got to think he's going to be in the mix. And again, they could rotate these guys. The main thing is that all three of these guys are a little bit different, so they're going to find a role for them. But obviously, they're all behind Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk.
And then the question is, okay, how many of these do you keep? 6, 7? I don't see any more than 7. You're really kind of pushing it and then making another position group at a disadvantage. But let's hope that there are tough decisions at the end of training camp.
Yeah, and they haven't said what they're going to do. I know Ryan made a comment, maybe they keep 8 or something like that. So at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. And if you're going to go with 3 tight ends and depending on how many running backs, and listen, they may only keep 2 quarterbacks on the active roster and then put 1 on the practice squad. So that allows you to go a little bit heavier with the offensive line and then wide receivers. So they could keep 7, and then normally 5 or 6 are active on game day. And now you're starting to get into the Farrell Coopers, Demir Birds. You start throwing in, we talked about Kirk and Fitzgerald and Kevin White. He got off to a good start, a little inconsistent now. Maybe it's just more of him learning and getting more comfortable. And then they do like Trent Sherfield. So it'll be interesting how it shakes out. But again, until they put the pads on, we're probably not going to know.
Yeah, what we do know is that it's going to look a heck of a lot different than it did last season. What's also going to look a lot different than last season is the Cardinals' defense. And we'll get into that on our next show here on Cards Cover 2 from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center. But until then, we will sign off on this show here, and hope you enjoyed Ron Wolfley. More Wolf a little bit later on, but until then, special thanks to all those behind the scenes: Tim Delaney, Jim Almohandro, Devin Henry, Jackson Sipes. That's Mike Jurecki. I'm Craig Grialou. This has been Cards Cover 2.